Welcome to DC Conversations. Why did you decide to adapt this book into a series?
I think one of the constant things I've done in my career is to try and do something I haven't done before. Um, so, if there is a certain genre I've tapped into, then I don't like to repeat myself immediately. Uh, so I constantly am on the lookout for a challenge because I think if I delve into something I haven't done, then I have to give like 200% to get it right.
Mm,
This book, Anirudhya Mitra's 90 Days, actually came to applause, both as an idea and then applause had him write the book. And then Samir Nair of Applause pitched it to me. And my initial reaction was, I don't want to do anything political. And he
mm,
said, it's not a political series at all, which is what we were intending to do, make it into a series, not a film. He
mm,
was like, it reads like a thriller, a
mm,
police procedural. And I was like, okay. So I read the book and I could kind of see it where I could steer clear of the politics, but keep it very much to the 90 days, starting with the assassination, finishing with the conclusion, which I don't
mm,
want to give away, to Gen
mm.
Z who are really not aware how it finally played out. Uh, so everything that happens there, treat it very much like you would in a thriller.
With a subject like this, there's a need to balance, historical accuracy and make it a little dramatic in terms of storytelling. How did you achieve that?
Oh, it's the worst challenge. It really is because, and I'm sure every filmmaker, every writer who's ever adapted anything real has struggled with this. Uh, because you can't just have it be completely uh, dry and almost report it like a journalist. You
Yeah.
have to find that balance. Um, One thing that I do is always steer clear of sensationalizing anything, over dramatizing anything. And I know that I usually handle all my characters with a great deal of sensitivity. So all those things I brought to the table here, but I had to work doubly harder, primarily because a lot of these people are actually alive even today. And I wanted to make sure that I did right by them. That, I didn't just for the sake of drama misrepresent their characters. And
Mm.
um, we've taken the utmost care, my two co-writers and I. But how we land is something that only the audience can tell us, or how we
Yeah.
landed.
How do you think the hunt contributes to the larger conversation about justice and accountability?
What Everything is a function of time. Uh, w- what we knew and understood as justice in today's times has a completely different meaning.
Yeah.
Acts now, which happen so matter of factly, uh, back in the day would have been, oh my God, I can't believe that person did that. And people do and say things which uh, appall me all the time, but it's called me old fashioned, but I come from a different period. So that is a larger conversation, and it's not something I even touch upon remotely in the hunt, primarily because when you pick a topic as sensitive as this, and when you start this conversation, then knowingly or unknowingly you pick a side, and I don't want to pick a side. I want to
Mm.
make this thrilling, entertaining, you know, engage the audience, but really not pick a side. And I've gone out of my way to make sure I did that.
That also sounds like a challenge. What was the most challenging part of depicting the investigation itself?
The actual scenes. See, when you read a book, X met Y, and they had a conversation. and then a certain event happened with a certain result. But when you actually go to dramatize that, now you start writing the scene and people have to say certain things, right? So I was not there in the room at that time when that played out.
Yeah,
So I'm actually imagining stuff that, oh, they might have said this, So that's like an awful battle to fight in your head all the time. Did
yeah.
I, do that right? And we're not, let's make sure that, we don't present that person in a light that he or she is not happy to see themselves in also, right?
Yeah.
Because while you might think that's what they would say in such a situation, they wouldn't. One of the lead investigator, Mr. Karthikeyan, was is one of those solid, uh, upright man. The way he carries himself, the way he speaks with clarity, always thinks about what he's going to say. So you had to play within those boundaries very, very carefully.
Now with OTT platforms, there's a huge exposure to different kinds of content, different forms of, I mean, there are several platforms. What do you think is the current state of storytelling in with respect to Indian OTT platforms?
When the boom first happened, there was so much content. People rushed out and just did whatever they want and pushed the boundaries and had a great time, myself included. And then slowly the restrictions started, and then, what kind of stories can you tell, cannot tell, and all that. Uh, Without a doubt, thanks to the OTT space, the the kind of topics that we've dealt with have actually become varied. They've not
Mm.
fit into this really super narrow range. So, independent filmmakers like me forever will be grateful for the OTT space for that. Uh, but as we consolidate, as the market corrects itself, and as where we are right now, is now slowly that kind of really broad space that we had to explore a lot of topics, that's become much smaller. Things are becoming a little more commercial than I like, but you know, that's the nature of the beast. I've been doing this for a very long time, so it's not like I haven't been slapped in the face before. So,
But with this kind of exposure, do you think there has been a lot of learnings for filmmakers? I mean, filmmakers across the globe for that matter.
what do you mean by learnings? As
I mean,
in the
basically, we
format
are we
itself,
are we are watching content and how movies are made or series are made, and we when I sitting in India, actually I am watching Korean, and maybe a Korean filmmaker is watching Indian content, right? So
right?
probably you may not be meeting them, in person, but you are exchanging notes through your work. Do you think it's
Right.
happening and it's actually helped filmmakers?
I hope it happens. I know us here in India, we watch a lot of international content. I
Yeah.
don't know if the reverse is true. I don't. I mean, I have no data for that. If
Mm,
it is, that's fabulous. I mean, uh, a lot of the stuff that I make goes out to the Indian diaspora. People
mm,
who know of my work do tend to watch it. But outside of that circle, I don't know what that what the influence is, because the only time I get to interact or would get to interact with an international audience is when I took my films to a film festival. That'd be the
mm,
first time that I would actually show it to a non-Indian audience, and that was always very exciting. Here
mm.
it's much easier, but I don't know. I should look into that data to see how many. I'm sure these people collect every bit of data about how many
Yeah.
clicks come from how many countries and all that. It'd be
True.
interesting to see.
And as a filmmaker who's worked in both, commercial cinema and independent cinema, do you see the lines between these two industries blurring or evolving?
Well, each will have its own space. It has blurred significantly since I started this journey a long time ago, without a doubt. Because so much of the younger filmmakers have grown up on loosely put international cinema, and they're not. bound by a traditional Indian format. So for sure, that line is blurred. No two ways about it. But when you talk about independent cinema, almost always you talk about a smaller film
Mm,
as opposed to a bigger film. And a bigger film, that hasn't changed in terms of, uh, you know, being commercial, massy, larger than life, and everything. So that divide is still there.
mm,
If I were to make an independent small film, I'd still struggle to get it into the theater, which is no different from the way it was before.
mm.
So that'll never change.
But there are
Being in
other
your
platforms to showcase, independent cinema, right? That though is happening.
correct, you mean streaming wise?
Yeah, yeah, screening wise, yes.
Correct. Streaming wise, 100%, 100%. I meant more theatrically. The beauty about the online space is there's a small box for everyone. You want to see a certain kind of film from a certain country in a certain way. That's one box, and you can go find your box. So,
Mm.
yes, the online space is fabulous. No two ways about it. It's immense, overwhelming.
One last question. You've done like so many, I mean, your work is like really vast, but then people still can't get over Hyderabad blues. So have you ever thought about, I'm sure people, come up to you and tell you, yes, yes, Hyderabad blues every time they see you. So
Yeah.
is there the remotest possibility of you actually bringing a sequel kind of a thing? Or maybe not a sequel, really, another Hyderabad blues?
Type film. Um, I did the sequel in 2003. I did Hyderabad Blues 2. So technically, I've already visited that space. Uh, you know, Hyderabad Blues came out of where I was in life at that point.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So uh, I always 100% want to make a film on Hyderabad to capture the essence of Hyderabad again. And I've attempted it periodically. It just never came to fruition.
Mm,
Um, but as I grow older, the kind of story that I want to tell, uh, that's been changing. It's not like I've at one time I almost made a Hyderabad Blues prequel, where the story was set in Hyderabad in the 80s when I went to college.
mm.
So I almost did that, but it didn't materialize. So there's always a Hyderabad story in me, and I might return to it, but uh, it just depends on when. There's no timeline. Yeah.
Yeah. So how much has Hyderabad changed from what you have seen till now?
Oh
What
my
is it that
God.
you miss actually?
Don't even get me started. Half of the people who claim to live in Hyderabad don't live in Hyderabad. They live in Gachibowli and, Madhapur and all that. Places that just sprouted in 15, 20 years. For a city to have a culture, it typically needs a couple hundred years, not 20. You know what I'm saying? Not 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years is
Yeah.
a drop in the bucket. So, yeah. So I clearly sound like one of those old guys, yeah, yeah, who whine about our times and stuff like that. But the true Hyderabad is still in the old city. It's still in the older Hyderabad where my parents still live. Abbots, Naranguda, Vithalwadi, Himayat Nagar, Barkatpura, all these places, right? Or even Secunderabad. This was the Hyderabad that I grew up in. So it has its own culture. The everything that you attribute to Hyderabadi culture came out of these areas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when people say, "Yeah, I live in Hyderabad," and they're living in Gachibowli, well, it's technically not Hyderabad, but I know times have changed. Uh, but I still like my chai and Osmania biscuit and all of those things. So
Great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for talking to us.
my pleasure. Likewise, my pleasure.